going on Facebook, YouTube? This is Ryan.5315. Know a lot of you have been asking about how I make my SVGs, so I thought I'd make a quick tutorial. I apologize ahead of time. I'm not that great of a teacher, and Adobe Illustrator I'm pretty self-taught on. So I might do something that an expert might find ridiculous. I might do it the wrong way. I don't know. This is how I do it. This is my method. And here we go. It's not going to be a start to complete 100%. I already have some of these SVGs pre-made, but I will explain that as we go. So here I am in Adobe Illustrator. Go ahead and create a new file, Control-N to open a new one. Now I already have a preset form. I use 11.5 inches because that's what Design Space, its maximum width. So, and I just put the artboard at 5 inches, and I'll edit that later. But for now, and then I like to turn off this background layer. I think it's in the view settings somewhere in here. Here it is, show transparency grid. I just use the hotkeys Shift Control D, but turn that off. First thing we're going to do is start with our text. So up here, our type tool. Just go ahead and put something down here. Now I also already have my artboard options, my workspace options, sorry, set up. These are primarily all the tools I use. Down here is my characters. So I'm going to switch this to impact. And then down here, I just make it something larger. It doesn't need to be anything in specific. So here's my text, and then I'll just type over. Make sure your caps lock is on. Oops. Today we're going to be doing the Texans. Nice simple SVG to get started with. Now, first thing we got to do, we got to change this so it is a SVG, not a font, because there's probably more, but the three main ones are there's a font file or image, there's a rasterized image, and then there's the vectorized SVG. So first we're going to go and we're going to make sure we select the whole object. Let me bring this over here. I'm working on two screens, so you'll see Texans is layer 1 here. Let's go to Object and just hit Rasterize. And once again, my stuff opens on another screen. I'll bring it over here. And for this, just change it over to type. I'm not really sure what the biggest differences are, but it's a type, so I change it to type, not just transparent. Hit OK, and it will convert it to, now it's an image file. So now what we got to do is we got to trace it. Sure, a lot of you already know all about that. It's just a black and white standard image, so I'm not going to do anything crazy. I'm just going to go up here to hit image trace. There is a trace toolbar right over here. You can get that by going to Window and Image Trace, and it'll pop that up. So I'll actually go with a couple of presets. It's going to be black and white. I don't need it to overlap or anything, so we'll just hit trace. Something I want to look for is just to see if there's any divots, or because the trace isn't always perfect. It's not going to have perfectly straight lines every time, and even final projects, you're not always going to have perfectly straight lines. Sometimes it gets a little skewed. This one looks pretty good. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of curves, but if there was, you can always mess with these settings over here, the advanced options. Paths is how many different nodes are going to be placed in there to make your path complete. And then corners, it's hard to explain. It's just, yeah, I can't really explain that. I don't know how. And then noise, I don't know really what the noise stands for, but sometimes playing with this option up and down will reduce the background noise, I guess. If you have a pixelated image that has a couple of off spots here and there. But this one looks pretty good, so we're just going to leave it at that. And let's go up here and hit expand. And now we have layers. So what I'll do now is I'll take all the white. If you don't know how to multi-select, just hold Control and then just delete the white out of there. What I like to do, just to, you don't have to do this, but I just like having all my things labeled. And then put them in the right order. So now we got the Texans. Now what I'm going to do is now I have the entire group selected. What I'm going to do is unselect the T only, because a very important part of a knockout is that you have a big thick font and that it's close together. So I'm just going to, with the arrow key, shift these over a little bit. That's a little too little bit of a space. I'll knock it one more over. Holding my shift key, I'll hit take out the E and just move the X, which actually I'm not going to move the X because you can see down here it's already pretty close. Oops. See if I uncheck the X. Actually, it doesn't look too bad. That's fine. That's fine. So yeah, we'll move it over one. So now we got the A and S. Just take off the A. Looks like it's already real close. We don't want them touching. Move the, oops. You can make bigger jumps if you hold shift and arrow. And move the S in a little closer. Alright, now we have pretty good image to work with. So now what I'm going to do is select it all. Make sure it's all selected, and up here you want to make sure that this chain, you don't want to have it X'd out. You need to have it, because you want it to naturally scale. We're going to change this to our 11.5 inches artboard. See it? And then I just tabbed over to height. What I'm going to do is just Control C to copy that height. Now I'm going to come over here to my artboard. And now it brings up the artboard options. See, it's already set to 11.5. But now we want to change it to what the height of the actual word is. So just paste that in there. Tab over. Come back over here. Now our little artboard, our rectangle right here, is the exact same size as our word Texans. So you can see over here in my layers panel, my Texans is still selected. So I'm going to come up here and center it by the artboard, and then center it the other direction. Zoom out here, and now you can see Texans is perfectly in there. So now we're set up with our very base layer. You know, I'm going to make this a car decal. No, I'm not going to make this a car decal. Let's just make, I'll do the car decal later. Only difference really being is, obviously, if you try to put black on a black windshield, it's probably not going to look so good. It's going to be, you're just going to have some graphics swimming. So now we need to select our images. I already have them selected. I got my go-to football. Now these are SVGs that I've already set up to work how I needed. You'll have some SVGs that this white portion will, if you were to hide it, then you would just have nothing here. I've made all my SVGs so that I can effectively work with them, and if there's a little bit of a miscalculation when you're layering something, you're not going to ruin your whole project. If you get real close and look at it, yeah, you could probably see where it's a little bit off. Like some of the physical decals that I've done and posted for you guys, they're millimeters off in spots. But you know, when you're looking at them from more than a foot away, you cannot see it. So this is a separate artboard, but I'm just going to Control C, go back over to my new work, Control V to paste it. And you know what? I'm going to quickly save this, just so we don't lose it later. So this is Houston. You can see I already got many Houston files. Oops, can't say the same thing twice. Dang it, rename. Okay, so now we're saved. I got my football in here. Now let's see. We want to scale the football so that it's the same size as the Texans, or maybe slightly over. So to figure out what height we need, just select your Texans word group, and I'll come up here and you can see that it's 3.4 inches right around there. So maybe 3.5 will work well for this. So height of 3.5. Try that again. There we go. Now with the group still selected, I'm just going to center it. And it's looking pretty good. Keep it selected. The way I choose positioning sometimes is I like to, because you can highlight the letters and you can see how much gap is going to be. The football, it's a football, pretty solid image. It's not an intricate design. If it was a real intricate decal or design, you wouldn't want to place it right here because there's a big gap between the A and the X. You want to make sure you have it, somewhere, close like this between the N and the S, where you'll have lots of area for your actual design to go over. So now we got our Houston Texans. Again, we'll copy that. Control C. Back over to our artboard. What we say, 3.5. I'm gonna scale it a little higher just because the Texans, the horns, the way that this guy is shaped, you're not gonna miss much because you got this whole area right here that if I were to scale it to exactly, let me just show you. If I were to scale it to exactly that, I got a lot of wasted area that I could be using. So I'm going to see what it looks like if I maybe put it at 4. Scale to the right. Oops. Right and there. Now I'm going to take it back a little bit because you can, but I really don't want the football and the decal to intersect. So let's go 3.75, see what happens. Again, shoot it over to the side, center it. If we zoom in, you can technically it's not overlapping, you can see that, but if you made the slightest mistake when layering, so we will select it again and just go just a tad bit smaller. Send it over to the right. Another thing you want to look for, looks like the star is going to get knocked out a lot. Now, not the biggest deal in the world if on this side, it's still going to be there, but if you were going to miss like a main detail on both sides, I would definitely try to reposition some things. Already I'm not liking this just because the football is so much bigger than the logo. So the football I'm actually going to reduce in size quite a bit here. Let's see what it looks like at 2.5. Gonna lose a lot there, but that'll give us a chance to make our Texan bigger. And now you can see more of the stars getting covered, and you can even tab them over just a little bit if you really want, but actually let's keep them over there for now. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to make a mirror image of the Texan. Really easy to do in Illustrator. We'll select them, right click them, transform, reflect. It's a vertical reflection, and we're going to cancel that because it would be pointless if I reflected the only image I have. So first, select them, and we're going to control copy, C for copy. Excuse me. And I know most programs you got control V to paste, and you could do that in Illustrator too, but I don't like it. Most of the things I'm pasting, I'm making duplicates of a layer so that I can edit it, and I want it to be in the exact same spot. So we'll delete that. To paste this exactly in the exact same spot as you got it, Control F. And now you can see over in my layers panel I got two Texans, and they're exactly on top of each other. Now only one is selected, all these blue dots here. So now we'll go right click, transform, reflect, vertical, OK. So now I got two. The one that we just reflected, we'll just set them up on the right side. So now we got our Longhorns, or not Longhorns, our Texans heading at each other. Now, like I said, most of the stars getting knocked out just because of the way it's falling. So this one I really want to kind of get in there. I believe that was this one. So we'll just kind of hover over the E to see where the line is. And without actually hitting the football, we'll just kind of bring him over a little bit. So now I got the majority of the star. Doesn't have to be what everyone does, but it's just what I like. If it's a little detail or a main detail. Alright, so now we have everything positioned where we want it. What's left to do is to knock it out. Now you can see my layers panel I got. Now there's two ways to go about this. You could knock out each design, Texan 1, Texan 2, Texan 3 all at once. You could knock it out where you would have one solid. You would do the brown line first, the brown layer. Then you would probably have the white layer go across the top, and then you would put on your blue and your red. For the larger signs, it's probably not the easiest thing to do. And when you're doing small car decals, better if you're working with a little bit, not a lot. I mean, this is set to 11.5 inches, so if you think about it, this right here is 6 inches. So our scraper tools are only 2 inches. I mean, they make larger ones, but if you got the Cricut one, I think, what is that, 1.5 inches? I think my Sizer one is 3 or 4 inches. But yeah, so I'm going to do this each decal all on its own. So we'll start right to left, hide our Texan over here, hide our football. With it out though, you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the other Texan will make 8 different color layers. So we got 8 color layers and then our font Texans. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make copies of the actual word Texan. And remember what I was saying, you want to paste it right on top of where it's at. So Control Copy, and I'm going to hit Control F 7 times, one for each layer color. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Now hide them all except for one. And we're going to hide everything except for one layer. I like to do it from bottom top. It's just the way I do it. Can be done anyway. What we're going to do is select the white and select the word. Our next function is going to be similar to Design Space's slice tool. I have no idea what silhouette or sure cuts a lot. I don't know what any of those programs call it, but in Design Space it is slice. In Illustrator it's called divide. It's this little button right here on the Pathfinder tool. If you need to bring up the Pathfinder window, it's under Window, Pathfinder. And it comes with all sorts of nifty little functions. Like I said, my workspace is already set up to how I use it. So if you're new to Illustrator, or you never really messed with the workspace options or set a custom option, your workspace is going to look dramatically different than mine does. Alright, let's just move this down here. Like I said, I'm used to working on 2 screens, but I don't think my recorder records both screens, just the one. So let's go down here and we're going to hit divide. Now you can see in between the T and the E, this is all one big group now. So I'm just going to select it, delete it. Go around deleting all the little pieces I don't need. So there's a piece in the X, a piece out here, and a little piece right here. When I think I got it all, go ahead and select all the pieces. Select it, hold shift to select multiple pieces. When you think you got them all, you're going to group them together. The hotkey for that is Control G. And now I have it right here in my, these are all my white pieces. If I were to hide it, it would take them all away. Now here's the rest of the divide path. You can see there's one white piece left over. So we'll just highlight it to see where it's at. And scroll in here. It's just a real tiny piece. Easy to miss. White's really easy to miss on these boards because the pattern. So we'll just go down there and we'll go ahead and delete it. Scroll back out. Now all we have left in this group is all black. If you don't know how I did that, just click the first one, hold shift, click the last one, and it'll highlight all those. And then we're just going to delete those. Now we have our white layer all set up. Now we're going to do our red layer. And I chose the Texans because the decal is pretty simple. It's not very intricate at all, and it'll be quick to do. Let's see, this video is already 24 minutes. If it was an intricate design, this would be a lot longer. So, and I didn't show you on the first one what this actually does. When you have your Texans layer selected and your red layer here selected, and you hit your divide button, it changes it combines it all into one group, is what it does. It divides it and combines all the pieces into one area. You can see all your red, all your black, and these down here are usually outlines. It's usually just stuff you delete. So I'm going to do the same thing. Delete all the excess. Sometimes you get some real tiny ones, and sometimes you get tiny ones that that would actually stay, like this horn if it was positioned over here and just might barely cut over into this. If it's something like 0.01 of an inch, I'd probably just delete it. No machine's gonna cut that. And you know, another little tip. If you guys want to work in inches in Illustrator, because default sets it up by pixels, hit Control R, and it'll bring up this little ruler here. And if you click over here, you can switch it between points, pixels, inches, whatever you want. So just a little tip there. Alright, so go ahead and highlight our red. Control G to group it. And the rest is all black. We don't have any tiny red pieces we gotta go hunting for or anything like that. And like I said, I like to name my files. So here's our first layer we did. It's white, red. Alright, so we hide that. Now we'll bring up our next layers. Blue and that. And like I said, guys, there's going to be... This is an easy SVG to work with, the Texans. If you had one that was multiple layers that overlap each other, you would need to set up your file ahead of time. And then when it's a dark color like this, I like to come over here and select it, just the first piece, just to make sure it really is black. Come over here and it is black. If you were to pick one of these pieces over here, you can definitely see it's blue. But up on the layers panel, it's kind of hard to tell. So let's delete our excess. Blue. Bring our red back online. We have our first Texans logo done. Alright. Let's turn them off. Let's do our football real quick. Football is real easy. Turn off our white. Brown. Divide. Scroll over. Zoom in. Delete, delete, delete. Select, select. Group. See right here we're missing a piece. Let's see what this is. It says it's right here. If we were to zoom in real quick, that piece is so small you can't even see it. It's not even worth keeping. So we'll select that along with all the black, delete it out. Do our white layer next. Oops, hit the wrong key. I hit the delete instead of divide. Here's what I'm talking about, where you get real tiny pieces. If you select that, wide it's 0.02. Anything less than 0.01 I usually just get rid of. Make this one. See, it's not less than 0.01, it's just barely over. Some machines you may not even see it. It might rip up when you try to weed it. I'll be honest, you're not going to notice it, but I just leave it there in case someone's going to print this instead of layer it. And I can obviously tell here I missed a piece, but I'm just not going to select it because I already got all the other pieces going. So group those. I already know I got this one right here that I forgot to delete. Looks like there's a rogue piece somewhere. Yep, one piece just barely hanging over, so got it selected, and we'll just delete it. Told you the football was easy. Done. Okay, so disable that, and our final Texan. Now, if I ever get a decent camera, I'll actually show the layering process as well, but all I have is my phone. It doesn't set up real well. Oh, there's my piece there. I need both hands to be able to do the layering. Oh, looks like I'm one group short. So we'll just make it one more copy. There we go. The red. Divide. But the only reason I have good microphone and all that is I'm a gamer, so, well, used to be. Don't really have time for it anymore. But my computer is definitely powerful enough to run a screen record and Adobe at the same time. Last one. Turn all our layers back on. And I like to group all these layers, just the way I like to set this up. Oops, missing those two layers. And there we have the Texans all knocked out. But I'm not quite done yet. Almost there. Can export the SVG. I just like to give everything a quick test in Design Space just to make sure it's gonna work. So Houston, Texans 2. There's a Packers design I just did. I tried to do it with the Packers font, and I just don't think it turned out very well. Not my favorite. Someone might like it. I don't know. Not even sure I'll put that up on my shop. Alright, so now we're at 11.5. Just do a visual check, make sure all my colors are there. Sometimes if there's a rogue node somewhere, this red might shoot up all over the place. Who knows? Go up here, hit make. No. Don't hit make it. Because I got all these tiny pieces. There's another thing I can do in Illustrator to get rid of all these pieces. So let's actually do that. Looks like this is going to be fine. Delete that. Let's go back to our Illustrator screen. Let me see. I got to remember how to do this. I have it hotkeyed. So what's similar to the weld function in Design Space is something called make a compound path. So I want to select my entire layer of Texans font. And let me see if I can find it real fast. There we go. So object, compound path, make. And now you can see it switched from a group. I can't expand it anymore. It is one solid layer. So we're going to do that for each one. Like I said, I have it hotkeyed. So I'm just going to go on each one and hit my hotkey option. Now don't do the whole group, because if you do the whole group, well, I'll show you. Do the whole group, you're just going to do, you're going to turn it into some outlines. You can't see anything. Control Z to undo what you just did. Alright, let's finish this off. Brown, white, open up the other Texan logo, white, red, blue. Okay, now let's export it one more time. Right over the old one. Old one's trash. We don't want that with all the pieces. Bring up my design space again. Upload. Browse. There's my SVG. Again, we'll do a visual inspection. Make sure all is good. Looks like it's going to be fine. And you can see I got many less layers over here. Now, this video's been pretty long. I'm going to cut it off here. I'll make a second video to show how I make the registration dots with the same design in just a moment. But quickly run through, see you got all the pieces ready to cut.